Hi friends! Will bananas help you poop or does it help with diarrhea? Can a banana peel be deadly? The answers to these questions is really both a yes and a no. And what actually happens when you eat a banana might surprise you. I know you're confused. No worries, today we're going to take a deep dive into what really happens when you eat bananas. There's so much confusion that some people think they are healthy and other people, they avoid them like the plague. The real answer is that it's not so simple. Because the truth is bananas aren't just snack foods and they're not just sugar bombs. It's one of the most misunderstood fruits in health. And some really say it's just full of sugar. Bad for your weight, bad for your blood sugar, bad for diabetics, and bad for your cholesterol. But others swear that it's a perfect food for digestion, for energy, and for your heart health. But the truth lies somewhere deeper. So first of all, bananas aren't equal. They're a different type of species. But even if you just eat one species, which is all of these bananas, a Cavendish banana, depending on its ripening stage, you get different health values from it. So if you've noticed, I have kind of greenish bananas. You can even get even greener for bananas, right? But I bought these because I'm actually going to an event and I'm bringing this as a healthy snack for people to eat for lunch. As a banana ripens, you get yellower and yellower, and eventually it'll have brown spots. And eventually it'll be so ripe that it'll turn entirely brown and mushy, right? And what do people do with these bananas? Well, they convert it into banana bread, banana muffins, banana pudding. Are those really bananas? Yeah, they're bananas, but when you eat them, you're not just eating bananas. You're eating high calorie, high fat foods that probably nullify the health of bananas. So when you eat a banana that's greener and firmer, the banana has more resistant starch and has less sugar so that it won't spike your blood sugars as high as when you eat bananas like this, super ripe. And you know they're super ripe because they have this like banana smell, almost alcoholish smell, right? That's ethyl alcohol. That's actually a liver toxin. I used to eat these kind of bananas and save them for like banana bread and stuff. I don't do that anymore. These bananas, they're going to be chunked because I don't want to collect alcohol in my food, right? That's just no amount of alcohol is safe, and I really don't want to add more to it. It's not going to get you drunk, but it's just a toxin. When I have all these other bananas, why would I want to eat one that's, poor quality food? These bananas are my favorite because they're ripened to the point where they're sweeter. They're not as hard as greener bananas, right? Some people like them really firm. If you eat the banana more green, then they'll be firmer. There'll be more resistant starch. And resistant starch will help to propel your poop, right? So if you are a little bit constipated, meaning that you're not so constipated that you have rocks and pebbles, but you're constipated enough so that you need just a little bit of weight to help push your stool down, then eating bananas that aren't so ripe is actually very, very helpful, right? It helps to propel your stool. But if you're so constipated where you're having rock hard stools, well, then you're just adding more plugs when you eat green bananas. When it gets riper and riper, that's the time that you should eat your bananas if you were to choose bananas to help you poop. But it doesn't have the soluble fibers like, let's say, chia seeds, where it can actually act as a viscous sort of lubricant for that poop to help you expel rocks and pellets. So when people have rocks and pellets, like they haven't gone to the bathroom for days, bananas would not be what I would recommend for them to take. I usually recommend my patients to get chia seeds. You add chia seeds to water, you let it soak there for like 20 minutes. It becomes like almost like tapioca pearls, but you don't put any tapioca pearls in it. It's just the seeds, they swell up. That is the fiber that you want to get when you're trying to help expel rocks and pellets. But on a normal everyday basis, if you want to firm up your stools or bulk up your stools, like let's say you have diarrhea, absolutely. Bananas are great to help bulk up those stools because of the resistant starch, right? It adds bulk. So there's different kinds of fibers when you eat different plants, right? If you want the fiber component, it adds bulk. When you eat bananas that are super, super ripe, I mean, even riper than this, it actually has so much sugar in it that sugar, that fructose can actually help become more of a, in a sense, a laxative effect and help you poop as well, right? So really it depends on what stage of the banana you are eating that determines what effect it has on the body. Let's take a deeper dive in the nutrition of a banana because, are you just taking a supplement when you eat bananas or are you actually eating something nutritious that gives you more than fiber, right? That's the whole point of eating whole food as opposed to buying a fiber supplement. A random fiber supplement may bulk up your stool, but it doesn't give you nutrition. And that's why I don't take fiber supplements. I get my fiber in whole foods. If you want to have regular good stools, you just have to learn to incorporate more fruits in your your diet. So let's go over to see if it's safe. If you have blood sugar problems, cholesterol problems, is it safe for you to eat fruit? So let's take a deep dive in that. Let's start with digestion. A green underripe banana is loaded with resistant starch. That is hard for you to digest, but perfect for your gut bacteria to digest. This is also beneficial for people who have diarrhea. And when you eat fiber and resistant starch, it absorbs water, which is opposite of what your gut is doing when you have diarrhea, right? When you have diarrhea, you not only lose water, but you're also losing electrolytes. And guess what? Bananas also have electrolytes like potassium. Now, they are not the highest source of potassium, but they contain a relatively decent amount to help replenish some of the potassium that you may be losing from diarrhea. And it's better to go for greener bananas as it has more resistant starch. Riper bananas, though, also contain more soluble fiber like pectin. That can actually slow things down, binding water in the gut. And that's why bananas are often recommended both for constipation and for diarrhea. Now, green bananas is more stool bulk. Yellow bananas help you bind it less aggressively. And so it's not really a contradiction of physiology. It's just how natural biology of the banana and your body works. Now let's think about diabetes. Are bananas good for people with diabetes or even high cholesterol? And it seems that some influencers with super high cholesterol are protected from diabetes simply because they avoid carbohydrates, including fruits like bananas. But people struggling with high blood sugars, who often also have high cholesterol, are told to avoid fruit or limit them. And I have to admit, at one point in my life, I was skeptical that eating fruit was a good idea because it was packed with sugar. However, I can tell you many examples in which I lost a ton of weight eating more and more fruit. The more fruit I ate, the more weight I lost. And when I was in junior high, I was pretty overweight, probably close to obese. And between junior high and high school that one summer, I decided I'm going to lose weight. Now, you would think that because my parents were avid gardeners that I would have perfectly organic foods in the house. Our pantries were loaded with junk. There was so much junk it didn't fit all in my pantry. And our house was like Costco. In fact, my friends would come over and say, your house looks like Costco, because we would have food stocked everywhere. And my mom used to make me clip coupons. Now, if you know anything about coupon clipping, you know that they don't give you coupons for healthy foods. So every week I would be clipping coupons and buying whatever that coupon would get us for a quarter. And then, you double it. So then my mom would save a ton of money and she would be so proud of saving money. But the problem is when you eat those kind of foods, you're losing health. And so I was losing my health eating that. And I realized that's not the right food to eat. So I decided to eat the other side of the house, which was fresh produce. And the more fresh produce I ate, especially from my mom's garden, the more I started to lose weight. But my mom was in the diversity. She was taught to diversify her foods. The rule of diversity was still very true in her day and age because she was choosing between whole fresh foods. Everything she ate was whole foods. However, when she immigrated here, the supermarket shelves by that time in the 70s were flooded with processed food. And, diversifying processed foods doesn't get you healthier. It just gets you fatter. And so my childhood was filled with ultra processed foods. And my staple breakfast was cereals. And then she would buy me snacks. I literally would bring chips and crackers to school. And then after school, she would provide frozen TV dinners. I was probably eating at least 4 meals a day and then snack in between. And then one day I decided, I don't think that's good for me. So I stopped eating breakfast cereals. I stopped eating TV dinners. And all of a sudden my weight started shedding. But I was hungry. So I had to eat something. So I decided to eat fresh fruits and vegetables because my parents, that's what they ate. They would always encourage me to eat more of that. But of course you can't, junk food can't compete with fresh produce. Junk food tastes so much better. And our house would literally never run out of food. And today I still have those habits. If I am down to 2 fruits, I feel like, our house is empty. So I have to go buy more fruits. And I would eat a massive amount of fruits during that one summer when I lost 10 pounds. In fact, in a day, I could eat an entire watermelon by myself. And do you know that you can get really full eating a whole watermelon? I mean, no wonder I lost 10 pounds because watermelon has so little calories. It's basically full of water. But I didn't just lose 10 pounds anywhere in my body. Most of that weight I lost from my belly, the visceral fat. And literally every time that I fell off off the wagon and would eat ultra-processed food or restaurant foods, my belly would grow. My visceral fat would grow. And I never connected the two. That visceral fat leads to insulin resistance. I always tried portion control, but portion control just never worked because the food is so tasty that honestly, I don't really want to do portion control once I start eating it. However, I learned that if I can front load low calorie foods like salad and eat a ton of that I'd be so full that I naturally would portion control because I wouldn't really crave for those highly caloric dinners or desserts. But every time I didn't front load with salad, if I ate the entire plate of dinner, I would gain weight. And then, when they finally came out with the nutritional facts and caloric content, I realized I gained weight because I would be eating a whole day's worth of calorie in one dinner. And I've also tried the milkshake diet. I've actually literally went on a weight loss diet just drinking milkshake because I figured, well, relatively complete, right? It's milk. It has cocoa. I actually like chocolate, so I would drink chocolate milkshakes. Had some protein, some calcium. Well, the thing is that the protein in the milk, the casein protein, binds to the polyphenols in the chocolate. And I wasn't just using dark chocolate or dark cocoa powder with no sugar. The cocoa powder that I was using came with sugar. It's basically like hot cocoa that I would put in with a banana. And I thought it was healthy because I was eating my fruit. But all the fat from the milk and then the purified sugar from the milk powder was contributing to my visceral fat. And once you eat food protected in fiber, then it no longer has the same biology in your gut. One time I ate a whole package of dried bananas, literally just dried, right? Dehydrated bananas that I bought. It was so delicious. These tiny little bananas, I probably ate 20 of them and it didn't spike my sugar, even though I ate 20 small bananas. And when it comes to bananas, if you do get a blood sugar spike after eating them, then you may want to consider eating green bananas. A green banana is mostly resistant starch and has less sugar. And it will not raise your blood sugar as high as a fully ripened banana that's yellow or even riper when it's brown. When it gets ripe, the resistant starch is broken down into simple sugars. And remember, you don't gain weight from eating resistant starch because your body cannot metabolize it. And in essence, it serves as fiber, which bulks up your stool by drawing in water. But that fiber also prevents the rapid absorption of other nutrients, like the sugars that are trapped in the banana. And since you can't metabolize it, when it reaches your colon, it's fermented by your gut microbiome, which then makes short-chain fatty acids to give your colon energy. Now, the resistant starch and fiber also improves your feeling of satiety so that you feel less hungry so that you don't eat as much. It also lowers your risk of colon cancer. And if in case you didn't know, your colon is a muscle. In order for the muscle to contract and relax, it needs energy. And that energy comes from the foods that you eat that contain digestible fibers and resistant starches for your gut microbiome. And when the microbes, they ferment these compounds, they turn into lots of different metabolic byproducts. Now, the wrong microbes can actually make wrong metabolic byproducts that are harmful to you. But if you're eating healthy whole plant foods, you'll make more butyrate and propionate, which are excellent for your colonic health. It actually reduces your risk of colon cancer, lowers your risk of inflammation, and improves your immune system. So the more green bananas you eat, the more resistant starch you will get. And the more resistant starch your gut microbiome will be able to eat too. Those brown spots means that banana has less resistant starch. And of course, this isn't true for all bananas because some bananas are browner. They just, even when they're unripe, they're brown. But for the common Cavendish bananas, the dessert bananas that we find in the stores, when it's green, it has more resistant starch. And when it turns brown, it has more simple sugars. And so the brown banana has a higher glycemic index on your blood sugars. But still, it's better than candy or ice cream because bananas are loaded with antioxidants that may help to protect your DNA and metabolism.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
However, before you get too excited and start adding bananas to everything, just know that sometimes it's not so good. So for example, if you eat bananas with berries, it's not so good for the berry nutrients because bananas have enzymes that digest the polyphenols in berries. So I would never add bananas to a berry smoothie because I want those anthocyanins from the berries. That's why I eat berries in the first place. I need those antioxidants to protect my DNA. And so when you're making or eating a smoothie bowl with bananas and blueberries, you might want to tell them to hold the bananas and eat it later. And so does this mean you can never combine them? I mean, you can combine them. They taste good, but just know that you're not going to get the nutrients from the berries. So if you just want it for the taste, then go for it. But if you need those berries to help you, to give you nutrition, then you should really separate them. Now let's talk about the sugar in the banana. A medium banana has about 14 grams of sugar, which on the surface sounds like a lot of sugar. The American Heart Association, they tell people to limit their daily sugar intake to 25 grams. So a single tablespoon of sugar is 12 grams. But you know very well that a banana has a lot more nutrients and weighs a lot more than a tablespoon of pure white sugar, right? Intuitively, you know you're not just eating a tablespoon of sugar when you eat a banana. Now, how much sugar have you had so far? How about for your breakfast? How about in your fat-free yogurt? You know, when we talk about bananas, it also has potassium, magnesium, and vitamin B6. And just like how I explained apples, we really need to separate whole fruit from the processed sugar. Eating sugar, which you could dissolve in your coffee, will definitely spike your blood sugars and insulin instantly. But when you eat a banana, you gotta chew it, you gotta digest it, and then it has to release the sugars that's buried in the fiber and resistant starch, amongst other micronutrients and other bioactive compounds. So lots of people eat a banana for breakfast and then they're full, but 14 grams of sugar in a pastry like a Pop-Tart, half a can of a regular soda, or 12 ounces of a sweet iced tea. If that's all you ate, you would not be full. You can get 14 grams of sugar in 2 Oreo cookies, or a small cupcake with frosting, or a full-size candy bar. Are they gonna have the impact of satiety that a banana has? So if you only measured 14 grams of sugar and thought that you could maintain your weight, picking any form of 14 grams of sugar, think again. These other forms that I just mentioned with the fat and the starches, they will spike your insulin and keep it higher longer. The banana, if all you did was eat but the banana and not eat any of those other foods, eventually, if you're insulin sensitive, it will help you stay insulin sensitive. And if you're insulin resistant, it'll help to get you insulin sensitive if you give up those junk foods. And studies have shown that people who eat more fruit, including those with frank diabetes, will ultimately improve their blood sugars and improve their diabetes. And why should this happen? Because all the sugar is trapped within the 3 grams of fiber and nearly 3/4 of water. The banana cell is like a time capsule that slowly releases nutrients inside. So when you eat pastries, cupcakes, muffins, cookies, frosting, candy bars, or even sweetened iced tea and sweetened coffees, there's no fiber, there's no matrix. You're just drinking pure sugar dissolved in water, amongst all those other chemicals that sweeten your drinks. Now let's talk calories. A banana with 14 grams of sugar has 105 calories. That Pop-Tart pastry has about 200 calories. And a small cupcake with frosting has about 220 calories. And a full-size candy bar has at least 100 calories. Now, which do you actually think is as large as a banana? None of them. In fact, the candy bar is so tiny, yet so packed with calories. No wonder when you eat a banana, you'll lose weight because the more bananas you eat, you're eating very few calories. And after you eat a banana, you'll be full. After you eat the candy bar, you're going to want more food. Now, my mom, she used to avoid bananas because it would always make her full before dinner, which is one of the biggest reasons why people should eat a banana before dinner. So they eat less dinner. And that is why people are gaining weight, because they eat too much dinner. They don't realize that their dinner has so many calories, especially if you're going to eat in the restaurant. Literally, some of these dinners have enough calories to last you the entire day and the next day. Seriously, did 2 Oreo cookies even make up 1/3 of a banana or even get you full? So no wonder you're going to eat those 2 cookies and then you're going to go look for more food afterwards, right? But if you filled up first with a green banana, you may only need 1 Oreo cookie and be satisfied. Bananas keep you fuller longer, they reduce your appetite at the next meal, and they help to control your cravings. And again, it's because of the fiber and resistant starch. It slows gastric emptying. Now, green bananas especially trigger satiety hormones in the gut because it has has more resistant starch. And this is really key. The more natural foods that contain fiber and resistant starch you eat, the healthier you and your gut will become, even if the food has 14 grams of sugar. But the reality is that even though most people are focused on the sugar, they're eating way more sugar than what's in a banana. Here's where the irony of diets get bananas wrong. So influencers say fruit is sugar and sugar is bad. But the real villain is fat with sugar. A Starbucks caramel frappuccino has 60 grams of sugar plus 16 grams of fat. And that includes 10 grams of saturated fat, the worst kind. That combo wrecks your metabolism by wrecking your mitochondria, it clogs your muscles, your liver, and your pancreas, and creates insulin resistance. But that same sugar, without the fat, like in a banana, may raise your blood sugar up temporarily, but it comes back down. And over time, you get more insulin sensitive. Your insulin requirements improves over time. And to get rid of 60 grams of sugar, you would literally have to eat 4 1/4 bananas, and all in one setting. Can you imagine eating 4 1/4 bananas for breakfast? I think the most amount of bananas that I've ever eaten at one sitting is 3 bananas because I was so hungry. But after I finished my 3 bananas, I couldn't eat more food. But when you're slurping down frappuccinos, you not only eat more foods and more calories, but that influences the amount of insulin that you will be receiving in your next meal. So when you don't have fiber, people tend to go hungry more often. And if you are drinking that frappuccino, you may be getting 230 calories to 440 calories of pure fat and sugar. But of course, if you just ate the banana or even make it into a smoothie, you'll get water, you'll get fiber, you'll get vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, resistant starch, right? All that is never going to be in your cappuccino. And that is why studies show the more fruit people eat, the lower the risk of diabetes type 2. The kicker is bananas are low fat, but people tend to combine them with fat and sugar and starches. Think about banana bread, banana pudding. They make bananas into diabetes promoting foods. However, I have some healthier alternative recipes that can get you jump started so you're not bored just eating plain bananas. So let's say day 1, you want to eat breakfast. Maybe make banana oat pancakes and you can top it with fresh berries, and maybe you can even drizzle it with a little almond butter or peanut butter. For snacks, you can eat frozen banana bites. You can also eat that with a little peanut butter. I wouldn't go all out on the butters because they are high in fat. For dessert, you can have chocolate banana and ice cream, right? Frozen bananas blended with cocoa powder without the sugar. For day 2, how about oats mashed with bananas, chia seeds, and cinnamon? Now, I prefer to cook the oats. Some people like overnight oats, but I like to cook things to disinfect stuff. And for a snack, you can have banana slices topped with the little sesame seeds or some nuts. And whenever you're adding fat with nuts, keep it whole nuts and not nut butters so that you can absorb the sugar a lot better or tolerate sugars a lot better. Limit your portions of high fatty foods. For dessert, you can bake a banana. You can make a banana boat, split it open, add some walnuts and a dash of cinnamon. But keep in mind that if you bake your banana, you destroy the fiber matrix and you concentrate the sugars because you're evaporating the water so that every bite has more calories. It's denser and has more sugars. Now, day 3, have you tried a banana chia pudding? You use soy milk with a touch of vanilla, mix it with bananas. For a snack, you can make banana energy balls, put bananas with cooked oats, a little bit of nut butters and different kinds of seeds, right? And again, you can make a smoothie. You can put a bunch of different seeds and nuts and fruit in it, but just keep in mind that the high polyphenol fruits, the colorful ones, you may want to separate that from the banana. Give yourselves a couple hours to digest that banana. Now, the next day you can have bananas with oats. You can have bananas with apples, and you can add some nuts to it, add some whole nuts. Some people have dehydrated bananas. They're tasty, or you bake them at low temperature and you can make banana chips, sprinkle it with a little cinnamon. Now, day 5, you can actually try a green banana smoothie with bananas, kale, soy milk, and some flaxseed. You can make energy bars, mashing bananas with chopped dates, and then you add that with cooked and dried oats that have been pressed and chilled. And of course, for dessert, banana and ice cream is delicious. And, if you don't care about the polyphenols in the berry, add some berries. It's even tastier. I personally love to eat them together if it didn't counteract the benefits of the berries. Now, day 6, banana buckwheat porridge. Cook buckwheat with mashed bananas and top it with hemp seeds. For snack, you can have banana slices again and put some cacao nibs. For dessert, you can have banana cheesecake. So you blend bananas, bananas with some cashews, lemon juice, and crust it with oats and dates. The last day, banana quinoa bowls, right? Cook quinoas with bananas and then add some almonds and soy milk. Frozen bananas with other frozen fruits are super tasty and refreshing on a hot day. And again, you may want to avoid combining bananas with those powerful berries because you'll nullify the nutritional effects of the polyphenols and antioxidants of the berries when you combine it with the bananas. If you want to learn more about that, watch the next video.